Welcome to Security Heroes, a podcast by Athena Security. We share real-life stories to help connect you to real heroes in the security world. I am your host, Lisa Falzone. Warning, the following recording contains potentially disturbing content. Listener discretion advised. Joining me today is Mike Hodges, the System Director of Public Safety at Piedmont Healthcare. Mike has been a pioneer in proactive security solutions, including leading the development of a collaborative workplace violence prevention program that has reduced incidences of workplace violence by over 50% at his facility. Mike was also a member of the U.S. Army, where his service included response to Hurricane Katrina on combat tours in both Iraq and Afghanistan. He is the recipient of multiple awards and accolades, and Mike has published numerous articles related to violence prevention and officer training. He currently manages the Proactive Security blog. Welcome, Mike.
How's it going? Thank you very much for having me.
Awesome. So just to start off, what sparked your interest in pursuing a career in the security operations field?
Oh, that's a good question. I think like a lot of people, I like to say I'm accidentally interested in healthcare security. I was in the Army for 8 years. I was going to make a career of that. As the story goes, I met a girl and that changed the trajectory of my life just a little bit. And I realized if I wanted to, be the husband and father that I wanted to be, I needed to get out of the Army. And so when I made that transition, I was looking around for something to do. And I got offered a job as a security officer at a hospital. Did that. While I was doing that, I went back to school and was working on my bachelor's degree and had opportunities to get engaged with training in that healthcare security organization, and then got opportunities to work into supervision and then management. And as I finished my bachelor's and master's degree, I continued to receive opportunities. And along the way, somewhere, I became very passionate about violence prevention in a healthcare environment because there's so much opportunity there. And effective strategic training for officers. And so with those two kind of personal passions having developed and the opportunities that I've been provided by phenomenal leaders that I've had the benefit of serving under, here I am, healthcare security, Mike.
Awesome. Yeah. So you said you're passionate about violence prevention, and what was the other?
Strategic officer training. One of the takeaways I have from military service is I was the benefit of learning about the strategic corporal concept. That was a concept that was pioneered by a guy named General Charles Krulak once upon a time. And the idea is that, we encounter, and I tailor this more to the security realm, the healthcare security realm. A healthcare security officer encounters in the course of an 8-hour or a 12-hour shift, every possible tactical challenge. They, whether it's active violence and, an active threat, active shooter, or a, behavioral health patient in crisis, or, grandma who has lost her dentures. Across all those areas, we encounter those problems regularly. And so we have to, look at how we're training those officers because they're making decisions in the moment that have strategic ramifications. How that officer responds to each of those events independently has strategic ramifications for that organization. And so we want to make sure that our training enables them to be successful in that regard.
Awesome. How has your military training helped you in your current career?
Oh, well, two things. I think the primary skill that I like to tell people about that I got out of serving in the United States Army was the capacity to deliver a PowerPoint any place, anytime.
Yeah.
So I got some good presentation skills and PowerPoint skills. And I think the larger, more serious impact from the military was the commitment to training, understanding the impact of successful training, and the ability to kind of organize that effectively.
Yeah. Do you think it's a good career choice for veterans?
I think there's a lot of opportunity. Everybody's different. Veterans, certainly are an incredibly diverse group. But there is a unique opportunities, especially in healthcare security as a subset of the security industry. But across the security industry, there's a lot of unique opportunities where military skill sets transition very effectively.
I totally agree. And I think the more security and health, specifically healthcare security, can recruit more from the military population, more veterans, I just think it's a win-win for both sides. Do you recruit a lot of veterans?
Oh, I certainly have a soft spot for veterans. So I get the opportunity to bring one in, I do.
Yeah, totally. Totally agree. I think one of the things I'd like to do with this podcast is really kind of encourage my cousin's in the military, and she always kind of talks about missing the military when she's off duty and really missing that passion. And so I think if we can kind of translate that passion that they have when they're in the field into healthcare, I mean, I think it's just really needed from both sides. And I think a lot of times when you get out of you tell me, but when you get out of the military, it's like, what happens? I lost my passion, and it's like, hey, this is a really great industry to go into. And so I'm just really want to try and recruit as many veterans as I can to this industry.
Well, there's a lot of parallels, especially in the context of service, right? In the security industry in particular, our goal is to serve people, to help people, to be there, to be a resource, to be the person that can be relied upon when in need. And so I think in that regard, the military and security services have very similar feels to them. And then second to that, as you mentioned, the camaraderie, working in teams and the team dynamic around the common mission also is a strong draw, I think, for the veteran population.
Yeah, totally. I've talked with some people on this podcast about kind of rebranding it, right? Rebranding the security industry and healthcare security from the mall cop situation to an act of valor. And so that's what we're kind of hoping to bring out is these acts of valors and to rebrand it into something very heroic. So.
No, I love that idea. I think, one of the first things, I wanted to do when I started working in security and healthcare was to change the use, and to your point, kind of rebrand from security services to what we term it public safety in Piedmont, and give it that broader context of us bringing safety and security to the public at large and to the constituents that we serve, but also just to get away from some of the negative connotations associated with that mall cop mentality. There's a vast difference in the way security is applied. And I think, to some degree, we as an industry have earned some of that reputation, but there's also a huge aspect of the industry that just goes under noticed or underappreciated because of the detractors. So,
how do you go about changing that culture within your team and promoting that culture?
Experience breeds belief, I think. So if, the more experiences that you accumulate, positive or negative, the stronger your beliefs are about a particular, person, place, or thing. And so we focus a lot on creating the experience in order to build the belief. So when we have positive experiences with our public safety team, when our public safety team has successes, trying to celebrate that and emphasize that experience and thus build the trust and build the belief in the program and in the people that serve.
Yeah, well, hopefully you can talk about some of these heroic acts that either you or your team has done. But first, I'd love to know what your main responsibilities as the system director of public safety at Piedmont Healthcare are.
Sure. So I'm the senior leader for security for the system. So Piedmont is a 22 hospital system in the state of Georgia. The largest healthcare provider in the state of Georgia. We have, as I mentioned, the 22 hospitals and several hundred physician practices, clinics, outpatient service areas across the state. Within that context, we have a public safety team that's incredibly diverse across the state as well. Around 400 officers serving those various entities within the system. And within public safety, our primary responsibility is security services through our public safety officers and physical security standards and policy development, procedure development, those kinds of things. So those are my primary responsibilities and the responsibility of our team.
Awesome. How do you see that the security operation procedures evolved since you joined Piedmont Healthcare? How have you seen it evolve?
So operating procedures, that's an interesting question. So operating procedures, I think, get a different definition depending on where you go.
Sure.
one of the things that we've really tried to emphasize in kind of our governance program is the interplay between policy, procedure, and post orders within the security infrastructure. So, as big as our organization is, policy really becomes the governing documents for our entire organization. So the broad big picture guidelines, they're left and right limits for organizational function. And then those are then distilled down into our standard operating procedures, which take those policies and nuance them into the local realities of a particular facility. So they help us give direct expectations of performance and direct guidance to the frontline officer within that facility. And then those are complemented by our post orders, our security management plans, et cetera. So the way it's really evolved for us is trying to, one, differentiate the role of policy and procedure, and then two, marrying them up in a way that makes them complementary and effective so that we capture local realities and local nuance while still providing standards across the organization.
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit about the challenges you faced in implementing adequate security operations and technology.
So it really depends on what aspect you're talking about. But I think, generally speaking, you've got in healthcare as a subset of the security industry is atrophied significantly. Security is not an area of healthcare that's been invested in, I think, from an industry perspective, very effectively. And so in a lot of cases, you're building from the ground up. So everything is, things that are commonplace in large non-healthcare organizations with their security programs are commonplace in the larger security industry are foreign concepts to healthcare. So the bigger challenges are, effectively educating your senior leadership and your healthcare organizations on the role of security and the role and benefits that function can provide the organization. I really lean into the concept of being a business enabler. How do we enable the business to function effectively? So that education component is significant. And then, just the challenges of working in a large organization. You've got a lot of leaders with a lot of opinions about how it should look and how it should function, and trying to shape all of that into a more standard program is always a challenge. That goes back to my military experience. Have PowerPoint will travel. I'll go talk to anybody anywhere and try to convince them that we've got the right direction to go.
Nice. Yeah. So let's just get into the just more heroic acts of what you and your team have done. Can you just talk about a firsthand experience where you responded or your team to a security situation that threatened the lives of people in your facility?
So anytime we're talking about heroism, let's leave me out of the equation, because the frontline officers, they're the ones that do the work. And that's where the rubber meets the road. And, it's every day something happens. Whether it's, we had an individual, we've had multiple instances where, an individual is trying to hurt themselves and trying to provide protection for that behavioral health patient and making sure that they're cared for effectively and receive the treatment that they need in a safe environment. Our officers do that every day. And in that role, they really serve as protectors and heroes to that individual who's in crisis. To give some specific examples of heroic acts, one of our facilities recently, we had a domestic violence issue associated with an employee, and the person that was the threat to that individual showed up on campus and was interdicted by the officers in the parking lot, and we were able to make sure that threat didn't manifest itself. And as I know, in the healthcare security industry very specifically, those acts of predatory violence or targeted violence are where we see most of our active shooters manifest themselves. So those are individual instances where our officers really, kind of earn their pay and on that day. Other instances, we had an officer at one of our facilities not too long ago who found a visitor unresponsive and was able to execute CPR and actually resuscitated that individual and got the clinical team engaged with them and saved that individual's life. That's
awesome.
We have there's hundreds of stories like that across the healthcare industry.
Yeah.
That goes back to that kind of thought process around the strategic officer. These are the things they encounter. A lot of people associate security with, sitting on a post and eating donuts, and that's not what we do. Our officers walk 20,000 steps a day, routinely in active patrol, serving patients at the bedside, family members who are, suffering in crisis, mental health patients, employees who are having challenges. One of the things I like to tell my officers when we're doing training is we have the privilege and the burden of meeting people in their worst possible moment.
Yeah.
And providing safety, providing security, providing aid, providing support. And in each of those cases, it's an honor to serve. And in that service, we really have a unique job.
Totally. Are there any specific names that you'd like to give a specific shout out to on your officers?
You know what? I think if I were to throw their names out there, they'd probably get mad at me.
With more than 20 years of experience as a security expert in the military and healthcare fields, what are the challenges hospitals commonly encounter when it comes to managing security operations?
Resources are always a challenge, right? So anytime we're competing with, resource restrictions across organizations. So it's always a challenge when you're trying to make a decision as an organization between a physical security implementation and a piece of medical equipment that's used to help save lives.
Right.
And so all of those are always challenges that security leaders face in healthcare. And then, one of the challenges that I think is unique to security, and I think also to a large degree, law enforcement organizations, is time for training. Making sure you have time to invest in the training that's most effective for your officers. Because, you get the product you produce when it comes to training. And, a quote that I think a lot of people try to point to on a regular basis is that you never rise to the level of your expectations, you fall to the level of your training. And so
totally
sure that you hold that standard effectively.
Yeah. So can you share an experience when you successfully led a transformation of an organization's failing security operations into a top performing one?
Well, I think so. Piedmont's very unique in that we've grown very rapidly over the last, several years. And as an organization, we made the decision a few years ago to start moving our security program to a standard program. And as a result, we jettisoned contract services and brought the entire program in-house. We took full ownership of the training. We took full ownership of the staffing and the officers' equipment and the level of engagement that they had. We had full ownership of the development of the policies and SOPs associated with their work. And in that regard, we've had a tremendous impact on the level of engagement of the program, the capacity of the program to have a positive impact on workplace violence incidents across the organization, and on the perception of safety from our frontline staff. So, having those nurses, those doctors, those patient care techs, those dietary workers across the board feeling safer and more secure within their facility.
Yeah, it's really interesting when I talk to people about what we do and what I'm doing with the podcast, and people do not know how much violence there is in these emergency rooms in particular, especially. I mean, it's just not well known that nurses are scared. Emergency nurses specifically are scared. And so hopefully we can create some more awareness around that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we're starting to see that. One of the things I've been most excited to be a participant in recently was we just passed a new law in the state of Georgia, House Bill 383, which was signed into law by the governor in May and became active in Georgia July 1st. So very recently. But it increases penalties for assaults against healthcare workers, and it opened the opportunity for healthcare organizations to start their own law enforcement agencies, very similar to a university or a campus police, to really help bring in a broader set of tools to help combat the violence in a healthcare environment.
Yeah.
And so that's been a unique thing that Georgia has done. Not unique in the grand scheme of things. Other states have done it, but it's been something unique to get to be a part of. And I think it's exciting to see the recognition of the challenges that healthcare sees in relationship to violence grow all the way to the state level, to start seeing that recognition and that understanding expand.
Totally. That's awesome. So what emerging tech are you excited about that can help you guys?
Weapons detection, the growth in weapons detection and the capabilities of weapons detection over the last 5 or 6 years is awesome. Because one of the challenges in a healthcare environment is maintaining effective flow into, especially like your emergency departments. You don't want to ask somebody who's actively experiencing cardiac issues to stop and empty their pockets and go through the process.
Right, exactly.
You got to have a good way to scan and move people through. So some of the technology around concealed weapons detection has been, I think, a godsend to healthcare organizations in relationship to our ability to keep people moving to the care that they need, but also identify threats as they're entering the facility. Similarly, the artificial intelligence integrations and the analytics associated with various video applications, sound recognition technology, aggressive behavior recognition technology, weapons identification through video technology, all of those things serve as really effective force multipliers for the frontline officer. So being able to grow an effective security operations center that can tie those technologies together, it becomes an enabler for the entire organization. And those are huge opportunities for us.
Awesome. So as the founder and author of the Proactive Security blog, which security operations topics would you be most interested to discuss?
So I started that blog quite a while ago. Primarily because my wife told me that I needed an outlet. And so I started the blog because I felt like there were things that needed to be said in the industry. And the things that I've been most passionate about in regards to what I've shared through the blog is highlighting the use of tools like the violence risk assessment tools that we see many healthcare facilities incorporating into their medical screening processes. So tools like the STAMP tool, the BROSIT violence checklist, the aggressive behavior risk assessment tool, and there's 100 others. But those types of clinically valid assessments have tremendous impact on violence mitigation in a healthcare environment, really engage more positive and more effective patient care in the process. Because one of the things that's a challenge for violence prevention in healthcare is a lot of the violence in healthcare can't be solved through the criminal justice system. It's a byproduct of disease progression. And so, when you see that violence manifest as a result of, a UTI infection or altered mental because of a traumatic brain injury or, some type of, medical encephalopathy that impacts the behavior of the patient, we have to have a significant amount of compassion for the condition that patient has while still providing for the safety of the staff who are caring for them. And so utilizing those types of clinical assessments to enhance our not only our proactive posture towards potential violence from a patient, but also increase the level of care that patient is receiving. So those have been an area I was really passionate about in the blog and trying to advocate for those. And then the other piece I think is the training side. So, seeing organizations enhance the maturity of their training programs, concepts like the strategic security officer and that type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of touched on this, but what are some general themes you have learned from the blog and the Proactive Security podcast in particular?
I will say separately from the blog and the Proactive Security podcast, and I have to give a shout out to Brian Hamilton, who's the co-host of that, who's a phenomenal human being. And has really exposed me to a lot of new concepts in healthcare security. The thing that I loved the most about the podcast was having guests, hearing other, security leaders, their perspectives, their thoughts, the ways that they're trying to solve similar problems. Just that kind of cross-functional learning. I mean, I think we often unnecessarily silo ourselves. As a result, we fail to expand our own learning and see how others have solved the problem. And one of our guests on one of the podcasts, a guy named Fred Burton, it said this, and it stuck with me, and I think it's absolutely true. He's security professionals. Even if you're in a competitive organization, security professionals will take your call, and we'll talk it out. We'll figure it out because we all have the same mission. We may be in organizations that are diehard competitors in the market, but as a security professional, we're all here to do the same thing: keep people safe. And as a result, you really have opportunities to reach out and to engage with your peers in the organization, in the industry. And that's where the podcast in particular has really kind of opened me up to some new opportunities and some phenomenal people.
Yeah. Like what new opportunities?
Engaging, like I said, with different people. So when I look at workplace violence, my perspectives on workplace violence have grown organically through my experiences within my healthcare facility.
Right.
But the challenges that I'm trying to meet, very similar to the challenges others have tried to meet. I'll give a shout out to an individual named Gloria Graham. She's a fantastic healthcare security leader down in Florida. And I've learned a lot just by getting to know her and seeing some of the work that she's done and some of the impact that she's had on her organization.
Yeah.
Similarly, a guy named Ryan King, we brought him on the program at one point, and he very similarly has some amazing insights on security training and effective security programs. And then another person I'll give a shout out to is Sarah Marie Baumgartner. She's a nurse and a domestic violence advocate. And she really opened up my eyes to some opportunities within our own organization for more effective domestic violence identification programs and intervention programs. So, in those three areas, I've seen tremendous impact on my own work.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's a little bit of a lonely position, like you're kind of alone and don't have kind of colleagues to talk to?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I think, like I said, it's a strong community if you reach out. I think a lot of us don't naturally reach out.
Right.
We pride ourselves on being self-sufficient and self-capable.
Right.
To our detriment in some cases. And I think, that's kind of my point with the podcast. It's really opened my eyes to my own capacity to reach out more effectively.
Totally.
And like I said, people will take your call. People will help you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what are the qualities of an outstanding security leader in the healthcare industry?
You have to be a team player. Nothing in healthcare works without a multidisciplinary team to support it. And so you have to be able to engage across multiple disciplines, across a lot of different, high caliber professions. You're dealing with doctors and nurses and, all of these individuals who have spent years training to do the work that they do. So you have to be able to engage at a high level and engage in a team. And you have to be able to look at things from other people's perspective. You have to be able to engage in such a way that it's not your way or the highway. I think that's a big challenge for healthcare security leaders sometimes. And you have to be able to see the compassion in the work. It's not a police department. It's not a law enforcement career. It's a compassion-driven career around healthcare. And so everything in a healthcare organization is central to care for the patient, improving the patient condition, making sure that the patient has what they need. And that's even involving patients who are very difficult to deal with, who can be abusive, who can be verbally challenging or physically challenging. And so having compassion for the condition, having compassion for the patient and caring for them while still maintaining a safe environment.
Awesome. So in closing, as a leader in the healthcare security field, if you had one piece of advice or one guiding principle for any individual in the security field, what would it be?
Oh man, just one?
You could do a couple. It's fine.
No, I think two things that I have had to learn through falling on my face. One is you have to understand the business applications of what you do. So being able to put together a competent business plan and communicate in those terms gets you a lot further than anything else when it comes to competing for resources in a healthcare environment. And then the other thing is that embracing the collaborative communication and embracing the multidisciplinary nature of healthcare. So, learn to reach out, learn to partner, learn to look at things from other perspectives, be compassionate about other perspectives. I think sometimes we think, well, why don't all the nurses just do it this way? Well, that's not a way to look at it. You've got to look at it from why don't they do it this way and how can I approach it? a little differently on my end? How can security approach it a little differently? So you've got to be able to see things from other people's perspectives.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being on. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, not at the moment. I think I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate what you're trying to do here and giving people an opportunity to share a little bit about themselves and about their programs. And best of luck.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's just we were kind of been in the security industry for a while, and there's so much doom and gloom that's talked about. It's like, let's talk about some heroes. Let's talk about inspiration. So that's kind of what we're aiming to do. But I gotta ask off the record, what are you doing for the weapon detection? Do you guys have something in place?
We're looking at several different models right now. We've trialed the Evolve solution at one of our facilities, and it's been very effective. But we're also looking at SIA. You familiar with them?
We actually work with Chea.
Yeah. I never know how to pronounce it, but we're looking at some of their products. So we're in the process of doing kind of a large scale risk assessment of the organization and what's the cost benefit for implementation. The challenge, I don't think, is the technology. The technology is there and it's effective. The challenge is, effectively staffing and maintaining the staffing for that model.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a challenge. Some hospitals that we work with are doing remote guarding because of that challenge. So that's some ways that they've dealt with it. But it's always.
Tell me a little bit about you real quick.
Oh yeah. So we actually work with Chea and then make it more like analytics, more connections. And so a little bit more competitive with Evolve. So when you combine Athena with Chea, then it's a great concealed weapon detection solution. And we're in a lot of large hospitals. I mean, Kaiser in California is rolling us out nationwide, and lots of places and around where you are. So,
where are you based?
I'm actually in California. Our company's based in Austin, Texas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Well, right on.
Yeah. So let me know. Hey, thank you so much. And I don't mean to make this a sales pitch at all, but I just you mentioned weapon detection, so I had to ask.
I'll let you know if we decide to move towards the SIA stuff.
Yeah, of course. All right, sounds good. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
All right, nice to meet you too.
Security Heroes is brought to you by Athena Security. To find out more about Athena Security and how we help save lives through our weapon detection solution, visit www.athena-security.com. And then make sure to search for Security Heroes in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Athena, thanks for listening.